Hi guys, it's Shannon from Painted Farmhouse. In our video series, we're going to do a new video series for you today on how to do our signs and how to make our do-it-yourself kits. Just because we're getting a couple of questions that aren't covered in the other video, we had to pivot pretty hard when this all happened and change our format, because our whole premise of our business was to do groups. So this has been a little bit interesting for us. So we're gonna come up with a new video for you today, and I'm just gonna work with you here on this video and show you exactly what to do. So when you get your kit, you're going to get your blue stencil like this. You're gonna get a little sheet of paper, contact paper like that. We're gonna show you how to use all these things. You're gonna get a little blue piece of sandpaper just like this in your kit, and you're gonna get a little silver pick. All of them are kind of different because it's whatever we can get our hands on right now, but just for today's video, I'm gonna show you this one here. So you're gonna get a little silver pick like that. You'll get a couple of brushes for your paint, and you'll get a couple of small containers of paint. So all of these things we're gonna show you guys how to use. And of course, you're going to get your board, which looks like this. Like so. So what I'm going to do today is show you guys a couple of things and just some questions that we've been getting a lot of, don't mind how dirty my hands are, of how to do these things. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of things while we're going along. So when you get your stencil, you may need to trim it down. I do not need to trim it down right now, but I just want to show you an example. But you may not fit your board. You may have an extra little bit on the left. You can totally trim that down. On the back, you'll see there's a grid. You can follow the grid if you want a straight line. So the first thing that you're gonna do when you get your board, and it's gonna look like this, this is our white stain on our 8x24, is you're actually going to sand it. So you're gonna give it a good sand in the direction of the grain of the wood. So back and forth with the direction of the grain of the wood. You're gonna give it a good sand. This goes for our chalk finish, it goes for our stains, it goes for everything. So you're always going to sand your board when you first get it. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, we seal them. We want to get the sealant off of that. It's not so friendly with our stencil material. And two, we want to have as nice smooth finish as you want. Now I'm going to stop you right here and just say, if you want one of those sort of antiqued, really old finish of your board, this is the time to do it. So for example, this one, which I'm going to show you guys in a little bit, you'll see how it's got sort of those edges that are all sanded out. That's when you can sand your board. If you want to have that look, now's the time to do it before we do anything with it. So you can go ahead and do that. There's another example of that over here that I'll just show you. So same thing, to get sort of that look of those edges sanded off, you can sand your board to look like whatever you want. So with this size board, you're going to normally get one piece, and you can trim it down width-wise to fit. But I want to show you guys also if you get one of our porch leaners. So imagining for a second that this is a 5-foot length porch leaner, which I know it isn't, and you're going to get, say, 3 or 4 little pieces of this with your sign. This is when people start to panic because they get really worried about what and how to deal with this. So I'm going to show you guys just for the camera, and you're not going to have this, but I'm actually just going to put some chalk on the stencil here just so that you guys can see the lettering while I'm trying to show you on the camera, because it doesn't pick up too well on the camera, and we've got a funny little shadow on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and just put this on just so that you guys can see. You don't have to do the whole thing, but it'll just highlight the lettering for you, and you'll be able to see the letters a little bit more on the camera. So that for now. So imagine this is a 5-foot board and you get your 3 pieces. Everybody panics and they say, well, I only got one small piece of contact paper, and you don't need more than that. Guys, when you get your piece of contact paper, which is gonna be like this, it's gonna be enough to cover the biggest piece of what you have. So whatever your biggest piece of stencil is, it's gonna be big enough to cover that. So imagine for a second these are larger pieces of your board. Again, pardon how filthy my hands are. Imagine these are big and they come like this. We're going to show you guys how to do this. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you can trim this down so that it fits properly on your board. So I'm going to just make a little trim on the bottom here. You can see I just cut on the grid, and you can just follow it on the backhand side like this to make sure that it fits. And then I'm going to put that down there. This one down here. All right, good. I know that it fits and it fits pretty evenly. There's a little bit of a trim at the top that I can do right there. So I'm just gonna make a little mark. And I'll go to the back again, follow the grid. And now I know that it fits. You're only gonna put one piece on at a time. So I'm actually gonna start with the top because I've now measured it, make sure that it fits in the center on the exact line on the top there. So you'll be able to see here that that lines up. So I know that that fits like that. So I'm gonna center that up and know that it fits. Grab my piece of contact paper. You guys are, it's going to be bigger than this. So you're just gonna tear it like a piece of paper. As soon as you do that, and of course it's not gonna do it now because I'm on camera, it will start to separate from the backing and you'll be able to pull this off. Now, in our classes, we will have you guys stick this to yourself and unstick it, just because the more that you use it, the better it is. It is really sticky when you first get it. So stick it to yourself maybe a couple times if you want to. Now I'm gonna show you this as well. This does not need to cover the whole stencil. You don't have to worry about it. People always say it doesn't fit. There's edges. You don't need it to cover the whole thing. So it's just the one piece for now. You're gonna now take the one piece that you have ready. You're going to peel the back off. Now the trick to this, guys, if you have lots of little pieces, is just to kind of peel it back nice and flat like this, so that if that does pop up like that, you just roll it right back into place. You don't need to squeegee that on really hard. You don't need to make it stick hard or anything like that. So you've got time to move this around to where you want it to be. I know that I've lined that up to the top, so I'm gonna line that up that way and just stick it in place. Perfect. Just like so. So you're going to get your one piece stuck. You're going to peel off your contact paper. And you've got it stuck there. And then you're going to go to your next piece when you have the bigger signs. If you have just one piece, guys, you're just going to do the one piece and get it stuck. Now the good news about this is you may have just seen, it won't stick to your board until you rub it down. So you've got time to move it around a little bit and stick it where you want. You can't rub it down and then pull it up. So what we recommend, guys, is before you're sure of where it goes, double check. So I know I have an A and a K on here and I need to line it up with my naked words, and I know that these line up fairly easily like that. So I'm just gonna line them up straight like so. Then now I've still got time. I could move this if I wanted to. I don't need to, so that one's going to go down like this. And then the next one, I'll grab my last piece, and you'll see the more that you use this, the more it peels off. The nicer it is. So, and then you're just going to slip this one in for your last one. So this is how you do your porcelainers, obviously on a larger scale. Same thing with any of our rounds. You'll have to match them up on your rounds and then put them down. We're going to talk about layered signs too, so don't worry about that. We're going to get into all of that. So then my E and my D is going to go underneath here. It's on and set, and peel back, and done. So that's it. So you don't need to rub this really hard. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on this. You don't need to force it. It sticks pretty easily the way that it is. So then you guys are going to grab your little picker that we gave you, and this is when we're going to show you guys how to weed this out. Now, some of you have been getting our silver pickers. Some of you guys have been getting the bigger ones. It just depends on whatever Amazon sends to us at the time. So what you guys are going to do is next step is to weed out your sign. So you're actually going to create your stencil here. So I'm going to show you guys as an example here on the G for my get. You're just going to come in on a side angle like this. You're going to lift up, and this is just going to peel out and pull. If it starts to come up like it just did there, because I didn't really, just give it a little push down and you're ready to go. So these guys all weed out really easily. I want to just show you quickly an E, because here, if you're going to weed out your E, you need that little center guy to stay behind right there. So you're just going to pull that out like this. So the one thing I'm going to talk to you guys about, sometimes these letters will have little tails that attach them to the next word or whatever. So the E in there, you want to pull those out. Those don't stay behind. So everything in between here, like this, you see how this has got the overlap there? You always want to pull that out. okay? So that doesn't stay behind. And then you've got your next layer like so, and you'll just weed out all the pieces. This is just garbage, guys, so you don't need this. And you can just keep going through like so. And it does come out fairly easily. The more that you've sanded it, and once you sand it, remember you have to clean it off, okay? Once you've sanded it, the better this is. So it just sticks a little bit better depending where you want it. So you've got your letters down. So this is on a bit of an angle, but this is just to show you. So I got my board, I sanded it all down, I wiped off. You have to wipe off the whatever you've got left there, guys. You don't want to use water, but just anything nice and easy. And then now it comes time to paint. Now you guys are going to get your little containers of paint and your little brushes, and we're going to talk quickly here about painting. So in your little cup of paint, it's gonna look like you don't get very much, but you don't need very much at all. So this is a paintbrush that's covered in paint, and I don't want to use that. So I'm gonna dab off a lot of that extra. This is actually gonna be enough paint to cover most of this sign, because I'm just gonna go nice and light. It's just a nice light dab, like so, onto your sign. This is just, I'm just doing plain black, but you guys can pick. When we ask you on your form what colors you want to paint, it's for the lettering. So this is what your paint is for your lettering, like so. And you can see, guys, I barely have any paint on here, and I've dabbed most of it off. You don't need, a little bit goes such a long way on this that you don't need very much. So just on that one dab, I'm gonna get a coat already on probably all of these letters if I keep going. But it goes, you want your brush to be fairly dry, and it goes a long way. So you're gonna have way more paint than you need in your paint kit. So I won't go and bore you guys with the whole thing, but you guys can see I'm just dabbing. What you don't want to do is brush your paint on. It pushes the paint underneath the stencil. Just a nice light dab like so. Right? Okay. So none of the pushing the paint. I did that to try and see if it will bleed a little bit for you guys underneath, so I can show you guys how to fix that. Perfect. So imagining for a second that I've done the whole sign, which I obviously haven't, but there you go. You're then going to peel. What we don't want you to do is wait for it to, don't leave it for a couple hours and then come back to it. You should be peeling your stencil when it's still a little bit wet, maybe not as wet as it just was when I peeled it off. Let it dry a little bit, but it should still be pretty damp. And this is when people start to panic and they think they don't know what's bled, there's a problem. There isn't. These are just the little centers that are left inside here. So you can just use your little picker and pull those out. I would wait maybe until it's dried a little bit more to get the little guy in the center there, but you guys can see that this is exactly the same paint that you guys have in your container, and it's perfect. So you're not going to get any bleeds. When I rubbed the stencil before, I got a little bleed in there, so I'm going to go back and show you guys how to get rid of that. So that's pretty much it. So imagine that you have a layer sign. So say I've got my Get Naked sign here, and for some reason I want to put something over the top of it. You're going to paint the whole thing on the bottom layer. You're going to let it dry. You're going to grab your sandpaper, and you're going to give it a light coat when it's all dry. I'm going to show you guys how to do that on the next one. When it's all dry, and then put your next piece down. So keep your contact paper with you, and you'll be able to use it over and over again. So that's where we are with these. So imagining for a second that you have a dry sign, which I have one right here, and you want to now fix a couple of little mistakes and things like that you made on your sign. So say you had a little bleed. So these guys have the little piece on the inside here. This is where you're going to come back after it's dried and just get it. So imagining for a second that you have a little bleed. I have a little tiny one on here, but I don't have very much on here. I want to show you guys that once you paint it like this and it's dried, you can actually sand it. So we're gonna sort of vintage look this a little bit. So this is, you can leave it just like this and it's fine. The first trick, if you have a little bleed down on the bottom here, is to take your picker and just sort of scrape it off, just like so. I'm not putting any pressure on, I'm just going back and forth, and it will get a lot of that little bleed off for you. What I would just recommend quickly to you guys is don't dig in, don't go straight up and straight down. You're gonna leave a little divot in your sign. You don't wanna do that, but that little thing will kind of get rid of it. And then if you want, you can then sand the whole thing. So I'm gonna sand it here and just show you guys what happens. So this has been drying for a while, but you guys can decide how much you want to sand. I'm going to give this one a good sand so that you guys can see the looks that you can get with sanding your sign. So that one's done there. I'm just going to get on the edge. I'm going again with the direction of the grain of the wood, so in the same direction, and I'm always wiping it off afterwards. So you guys can see, doesn't make it bleed, doesn't have it doing it, just sort of gives it a little bit more of a softer vintage look, and any of those little bleeds or anything like that you can typically get away. If you've dropped something paint on there by accident, what we don't want you to do is to go and just focus on that. If you've got a little drop of paint on there, just kind of lightly go in big huge strokes back and forth, see, and you'll get rid of it. You won't even know that it's there. So that's the trick to that. So just to see that, I don't know how close I can get that for you, but just so that you can see, just gives it a softer look. You can sand as much as you want. I want to age this one a little bit more. So this guy has a couple of little bleeds on the side here, which I didn't worry too much about touching up, but I really want to give this an aged look. So I'm going to go a little bit harder on some of these letters so that you can see the look that I'm trying to go for here on this particular side. There we go, perfect. So that just gives it this little bit more of a fun vintage. You don't have to do this. We just want to show you that you do have the option to do that. And it just makes it a little bit different look for you. Okay, so going back to show you guys a couple of other things just to touch on. So for example, say you've pulled your stencil off. I'll just see, hopefully that's going to catch this. You pulled the stencil off and it's actually pulled a little bit of the paint off. That does happen with our chalk stains sometimes. Don't panic about it. If you grab your paper and give it a good sand, again, with the direction, with the grain of the, I should have used a clean piece of sandpaper, but that's okay. With the direction of the wood, you can pull a lot of that color back in if it starts to, there you go, starts to split, and you can just soften that out. So nothing's ever, don't worry about it. Give it a good sand. You'll be amazed what a sanding can do. It softens all of the edges, makes it look nice and clean and crisp. So again, we have a little tiny little bleed on this guy here. I'm just gonna grab this right here, give it a little scrape off, really lightly, no pressure. So come by with my sandpaper, give it a good wipe off, and we're good. Okay, so that's basically how you complete your sign from beginning to end. I did it super quick, but I just wanted to show you guys some tips and things like that in a video for you. And now we're going to talk about our 3D wood cutouts. So a couple of people have ordered our 3D wood cutouts, which is great. So you can get some of your fonts that are thicker cut out into wood if you've asked for that selection. So this is what that looks like. Now, there's been a little bit of confusion about painting it because you're still going to get these paint brushes with your paint. You've got some options. So this is actually just going to be in white. So I'm just going to use the white paint that I have here. I was going to do it in gold for a vendor market. That might not even happen now, but I'll do it in white just so that we can show you guys. So you have a couple of options. So option number one is a new bottle of paint. All right, I'm not going to use that. I'll use our regular paint that we give to you guys. All right, option number one, okay, is to take your pieces that you've got and you can paint them while you have it off like so, if you want. So that's option number one, is just to paint. Now, the other thing I want you to see, guys, is I'm using hardly any paint on my paintbrush at all. You don't need to have much at all. It doesn't need to cover the sides. We've had a couple of people try and spray paint it. That's not going to work, guys. You're going to lose all your finite details in your writing. You don't want to do that. So just a super light coat, really easy to do. These are a little fragile, so you have to be a little bit delicate with them. But you get the idea. So there's the you painted on there. Now, if you want, if you have it at home, you can also grab one of these little paintbrushes. You can get them at the dollar store too. We don't have them, unfortunately, to give out, but you guys can use those too if you want to do a touch up. Now, Option number 2 is you guys are going to get a little container of wood glue with your signs. So I've already glued this piece on. This one's already stuck. You don't need very much wood glue either, guys. It's just a tiny little dot on the back of it. So for this guy here, you've got the option of, once it's already glued on, to again, really, really light amount of paint and just go really light on the top with these brushes. It works too. So you just have to be a little bit careful with it, but it's not, you don't want to overload your brush. You can see that my brush has hardly any paint on it, just nice and light. You know, I just heard the door open and I asked for just half an hour to do our video. Okay, so you can do it that way as well. So you've got 2 choices. Again, you can always come back if you have one and you would rather use a little paintbrush like this. If we can get our hands on some, we will put them in our 3D kits for you, if I can order some in bulk, but just paint it on, just like so. Same thing, guys, a little bit of paint goes so far with these things. You don't need to have too much paint at all. So hopefully that'll help you guys see how this works. So you can see our 3D signs there. Just I'll bring it up maybe closer to the camera so you can see that these are cut out of wood. These are all dependent, guys, on size too. Some of these you can't do them different sizes just because if it's too thin it will snap on you. No, I'm obsessed with doing them. So you have that option as well. To go back to our other sign here, as I knocked everything over, right, you've got this guy here that we painted earlier. It's got some of the dust. So you can see how dry it, or how quickly it dries. And then this little guy here, same thing we just did. You're just going to come in with your little scraper. Just give it a nice little scrape off. Really, really easy. And just go back and forth with that. And then give it a good sand. I've lost my sandpaper, so I can't show you, but you'll just give this a nice light sand here, and you'll get that off. This one's dirty, so I don't really want to use that to show you guys as an example, but yep, absolutely. Just go on here, nice and light. I'm not making any dent into that. And that's it. So hopefully that will help you guys see how to do these. And I can just show you as we take out this little guy here, just waiting. The paint dries really quickly because because it's so thin, and 2, because it's a latex chalk paint base. So we mix it ourselves so you guys can see it's just really, really dry. Now we get a couple questions about things about how to, after you're done, do you need to varathane it? Do you need to varnish it? Do you need to cover it? You can if you want to. We have used an outdoor varathane. You just want to make sure that you get it crystal clear if you want to do it. And that should be it. So hopefully that video for chicks and things like that will help you guys if you have any questions. And we'll attach this on the bottom of our videos going forward on anything that you guys want to see. If you have any questions, if there's anything you think we should cover in these videos, let us know. We are so grateful and so thankful for you guys. Send us the pictures of what you make. We want to see it. We want to see all those beautiful finished pieces. So send us what you have. We're doing our best to keep up with our orders, getting them out 24 to 48 hours. Our business is all word of mouth, so thank you for letting everybody know. I'll show you guys just quickly while I'm talking and saying thank you, how little glue that you need for these. We have been busy trying to get all of the sizes. The wood has been a little bit hard to get our hands on, but we're working on it. So just the tiniest bit of paint or of glue for these, and then you'll just place it wherever you want. And you've got, it dries clear, so you don't have to worry about being able to see it. And that's it. So thank you guys, and happy creating. Thanks very much.